I just finished a series on human nature on my channel, Foundations of Character. And this video, it's not a recap video, it's me explaining something that I learned in the middle of that series. I actually changed the series starting at the middle all the way to the end based on what I learned. I thought it was cool and I figured that I would make a video at the end of it all and share it with you. Now, this idea came from the whole concept of human nature came from my being a martial arts instructor for 34 years, working with kids, teens, and adults. My primary focus was kids. That's always the biggest numbers of people that are in the karate school. And I started observing behaviors, and it became a pattern. When you study fighting, what you watch for is patterns. Like which hand is in the front, which leg is in the front, which leg is in the back, what their stance is. All of that tells you valuable information. And when someone squares off, you can kind of tell what they're going to do based on how they're standing there. So you get really good at pattern recognition. And I noticed these patterns happening over and over again, regardless of background, regardless of education level, regardless of anything. And it confused me. First thing I thought was, I don't do that. And then I had to go back and look at my training and what I did when I was where they are, the white, yellow, green, blue, red, somewhere in there. And I thought I was special. And turns out I wasn't special. I was just like everybody else. So that gave me a little bit more patience with the kids that I was working with. Anyway, these traits kept showing up over and over again. And I was like, why? Why does this stuff keep happening? Now, what I wanted to do was take someone from here to here as quickly as possible, here to here as quickly as possible. And I couldn't do that because these traits kept getting in the way. They'd butt up against one, and then I'd have to show them how to get around it, and then they would butt into the next one, and I would show them how to get around it, and they'd butt into the next one. And there was no way to make it happen faster. I mean, I could show them a technique that they weren't really capable of doing. They would know the technique, but they didn't know how it functioned or they wouldn't know anything about the technique other than how to perform it. And when sparring came along, they just threw it out the window. So there's this progression of thought. I'll give you an example of it. In fighting, people who are black belt or third, fourth degree, whatever, people claim that it's like you know what I'm going to throw before I throw it. And it's not really that. What it is that we understand our human nature, our nature. I know if I throw a punch to your face, I know the first 5 ways you're going to react. I'm going to throw a punch to your face, probably going to hit you, but you're going to react one way. Then next time I throw a punch to your face, you're going to, in your mind, go, that didn't work, so I'll try this way. And when that doesn't work, you're going to try this way. And when that doesn't work, you're going to try this way. And when that doesn't work, you're going to try this way. Normally, I don't have to go any further past 3 before they just submit. And that's what fighting is it's getting the other person to submit and give up and think that you're so much better than them that it's pointless to try. And that's really what separates us, is it's that fear, which is why all of my shorts have been talking about fear. Anyway, martial arts is unique because, especially when you're working with kids, kids don't wear masks. They don't know how to develop a mask yet. They don't really do that till they're teenagers. And then when they become an adult, they are fully wearing a mask on their face to hide their insecurities and stuff like that. That's perfectly normal, except when you fight. When you fight, you can't wear a mask. The mask don't work. And a punch is coming at your face or a kick is coming at your face. So your nature comes through almost immediately. Out of necessity, it does. And that's kind of where this information comes from, is me studying and watching and noticing patterns of what humans do consistently, regardless of background. Now, I wrote these patterns down. I tried to write them down to make sense of them, and I called them one thing, and I didn't put them in any kind of order. I don't know that I ever tried to put them in any type of order, but I tried to organize it in terms of when I would remember something or when I'd see something in class, I would write it down, and I just kind of stuck it away and didn't think about it. But I studied it as it was happening in the class, and I would come up with drills or whatever that would help the kids or the students get around the issues that they were having. Now, flash forward to right now, is I have to re-engineer or back engineer all of those ideas because I haven't thought about it in a long time. It kind of became just part of my teaching style. And so I had to sit down and think back to what that was. And I wrote it all down, and thank God for ChatGPT, because I wrote this long thing in ChatGPT about what it was that I saw and what I noticed in people, and asked it, was there any research that backed up what I saw, the patterns that I saw? And it was. Now, what ChatGPT told me was that researchers have studied individual parts of it, but there's none where they have put it all together like I did. And again, all of my stuff is just observational. And their terminology is way different than mine. They use that highbrow academic wording rather than karate instructor wording. So anyway, it confirmed that age, status, culture, none of that mattered. It was consistent, and it's consistent worldwide. Now, I always called it human nature because I didn't have another word for it. And I was just like, all humans do this, that must be their nature. I did it too, it's my nature. And going back to the fighting concept, where I know your first 5 reactions to what I'm going to do to you, the reason that I know those is I studied myself. I had forgotten that I had done that, but I knew what my first reactions were going to be. And so I assumed that everyone's reactions were going to be that, and I was right. And so I just went with it. So I kind of stumbled upon it, you know. Anyway, I've always called it human nature, but the academics, they use completely different language than I do. But the patterns match. Now, I got to wondering, where did those traits come from? What's the origin story of those traits? If we all share them, we must have had a shared experience or something like that made it where we all experience the same thing. That's just our nature. That's just people. People do people things. And so I went on a quest about halfway through the series, the Human Nature series, and I'm a Christian. I believe what the Bible says. And so I decided, if that story is true about the Garden of Eden and the fall of man, maybe I should start there. So I wondered if there were moments in the Garden of Eden where the traits appeared. And so I went to Claude AI and I put in the traits that ChatGPT gave me, and I said, does this match things that happened, decisions that were made, actions that were taken in the garden? And Claude was like, yes, it actually does. And so that's what I'm going to take you through real quick. Now, I'm going to give it to you the moment that each of these traits appeared in the garden story. The first one is emotional authority. That is a human nature trait. That's when the serpent talked to Eve and said, did God really say that you couldn't eat from that tree of the knowledge of good and evil? And surely you won't die. And her emotions took over, and she was like, well, it is pretty to look at, and it is good for food, and it will make me wise. So she ate it, but she made her decision based on the emotions. And then the next thing that showed up was, or around the same time, was negativity. Negativity means that your focus shifted from the abundance that you have to that one restriction that you don't. You'll be like God, is what the serpent said, and it highlights what was lacking. Your attention gets changed from all the stuff that you have and being grateful and thankful for what you have, and it shifts to paying attention to things that are deficient and all the things that you don't have. And the next thing is fear. Now, they eat the fruit. She eats it. She gives it to Adam. He eats the fruit. And they realized they were naked. So they hid from God. And they made clothes out of fig leaves. And then God shows up. So that was fear. Fear is a human nature trait. So far we have emotional authority, negativity, and fear. That's number 3. Uh, they realized they were naked, and what they said was, "I heard you, and I was afraid." Up until that moment, there was no reason for them to be afraid. They had never experienced that before, so they hid and covered themselves. And so the next one is short-term relief. So now we have emotional authority, negativity, fear, and short-term relief. The short-term relief was when they actually sewed the fig leaves together and made coverings. That was a quick fix for immediate shame and exposure. They were solving problems now without thinking it through, thinking about future repercussions and all that kind of thing. The next one is responsibility avoidance. That's another human nature trait. Humans try to avoid responsibility. So when God said, "What did you do?" Adam goes, "Eve, that woman that you gave me the fruit and I did eat." So he passed the buck to God and Eve. And then he looks at Eve and goes, "What is this you have done?" And Eve blames the serpent. So that deflection happened to avoid response. Maybe it won't be so bad if it's his fault. The next part of human nature is loss avoidance. Now, this happened after they were expelled from the garden. They experienced a total loss. They were walking around naked. All the animals were friendly. They had plenty to eat. They had plenty of everything. And they had a direct relationship with God. All of that was severed. They lost everything. It was a catastrophic loss. And it seems like it imprinted on us, on all humans from then on. All of these did. I mean, if we go back to the beginning, all of us got imprinted with emotional authority, negativity, fear, short-term relief, responsibility avoidance, loss avoidance, and the next one is comfort. We are constantly seeking comfort. This, again, after the fall, we're constantly seeking comfort to replace what we lost. It's like a constant reminder. We hoard things. We attempt to recreate the garden's ease. In the garden, everything was easy. But we remember the comfort in God's presence. And we're constantly trying to find that through things or activities. And all of it is empty. You know it is. I know it is. But we're constantly seeking that comfort. The next part of human nature is external validation. When we got separated from God's direct approval and presence and all like that, we started looking sideways to other humans. We want his approval or her approval. It's a lot easier to look horizontal than it is to look vertical, right? So this isn't a sermon and it's not a theology class or anything like that, but that's the 8 things, and I'll take you back through them again real quick just to make sure you got them. We have emotional authority, negativity, fear, short-term relief, responsibility avoidance, loss avoidance, comfort, and external validation. So I want to walk you through, I have notes, so you can see that all of the traits came to be the moment of the fall. And look, you don't have to believe the Bible, but that's an interesting story that was written thousands of years ago describing what every human experiences to this day. The struggles that we have and all like that. Looking at it from the lens of the garden, the human nature stuff, some Christian practices actually make more sense when you view them as training against these characteristics. Suffering has a purpose. Now, what I learned during the series is God didn't give us our nature, we chose it. Humans chose autonomy. We chose to turn away from obedience. That's what we chose. And because of that, it's almost like it was a curse. Not a curse, but he put it in us as a constant reminder of what we lost. And we're always trying to get back to that garden scenario where we walked with him and things were easy and we lived in abundance. We never wanted anything because everything was provided for us by him. And so the system got set up to where we always have a reminder that what we did in the garden. So we're always trying to find God. If that makes sense. So that was the main thing that I learned. And what I believe is the fight is the point of it all. You know, there's in the New Testament, it says you have to deny yourself and take up your cross. Deny yourself, deny your human nature. And the cross is the suffering. Because when you deny your human nature, you suffer. You might lose friends, you might lose family members, but either way it goes, you're going to suffer one way or the other. So, but it is definitely easier if you deny your human nature. God never promised that it was going to be easy. In the garden, it was easy. But because we chose this path, everything got hard. He allowed us to choose. And we have to try and fight our nature. That's the point of the whole thing. And God didn't abandon us. There's a path to go back to Him through Jesus Christ. The path does require effort and choice, and there will be resistance. But our chosen nature sucks. I'm a little mad at Adam and Eve, to be honest with you. We only get two choices in this life. It's either going to suck or it's going to suck less. Those are the only two choices. Yeah, and we want peace and order and truth and safety. In our heart it is. And in the Bible it says, these commandments all write on your heart. And all of those things that we want, that we truly want, they point back to God. Now, if what I learned is true, then confession makes complete sense. I mean, stay with me on this. If we openly admit our struggles and sins to others, maybe it's a method to show that we're all the same and we all have the same struggles. We're exactly the same. Just like in the karate class, when everybody butts their head up against these same things, they show the same progression no matter what. Very consistent. But when we confess, we understand we are the same. Our struggles are the same. The things that we butt up against are the same. And we look for ways to get around it. Some people use pills, drinking, all kind of stuff to get around the pain of remembering what we did in the garden. So confession makes sense. It's to make it known that I'm like you, you're like me. It equalizes everybody and eliminates the judgment, right? It's also love your neighbor as yourself makes sense as well, right? We can't really judge them and hate on them because we do the same thing. It just expresses differently a lot of the time. Forgiveness also makes sense because if they're broken and doing the things that we're doing, well, why would we hold a grudge? It doesn't make any sense. The person that hurt you was also operating from fear or seeking relief or avoiding responsibility. So same boat. So holding grudges just makes no sense if we're equally broken. And it releases you from the loop of bitterness. I don't know if you know this about forgiveness, but normally the person who wronged you, they never think about you ever again. You're the one sitting there spinning it around in your head, right? So you forgiving them releases that loop and makes it where it doesn't control you anymore. It has no power over you. Another thing in the Bible that makes sense is fasting. Now, I have done fasting. Last year, I only ate 11 of the 12 months. I experimented with fasting a lot. I started with a 2-day fast, and I went to a 3-day fast. Those weren't too bad. Then I decided I would try a 5-day fast. That one was tougher. When you get to day 3 and you've done that before, your body's like, all right, good, we get to eat. And on day 4 was really, really hard. And I still had another day after that. So the mental pressure and it was hard. But anyway, if you look at fasting, it forces you to confront human nature in a very concentrated period of time. For instance, emotional authority is your irritability and mood swings because you're constantly trying to control yourself and you might think that your hormones are out of whack or whatever, but you can be irritable when you're fasting. Then short-term relief, that constant urge to eat. Then you have negativity. You're fixating on the discomfort. And that is so true because when you get hungry, you try to distract yourself with things, but it doesn't work because you're still hungry. And I don't know if you're actually hungry. It's that you've been eating 3 meals a day for so long and eating in such abundance and 3 meals a day is a lot if you take into consideration what the rest of the world eats. But you have a constant urge to eat. I'm not sure if it's out of habit or if you actually need the food. I'm kind of sold on the idea that you don't actually need the food, but that short-term relief is constantly hitting you. Negativity, you're fixated on the discomfort. Then you have fear. And I have stopped fast because of the fear, because something didn't feel right. You can call it health anxiety. Social discomfort, when your friends ask you, hey, you want to go eat? I can't go eat, I'm fasting. And it's hard to go eat with them and sit there and watch them eat and smell the food and all like that. So then you have regular comfort. Your body and mind is uncomfortable and they are screaming for ease. Then responsibility avoidance is making excuses to quit, which totally happens all through a fast. Then loss avoidance is fear of missing out, going out with your friends and doing things, because you have to set time aside. I mean, if you're going to fast for 5 days, that means you're not going to the gym, you're not hanging out with your friends, you're not eating with the family. There's a lot that you lose, so you're battling that. And then external validation, you have to constantly explain yourself to other people. So it is a moment-by-moment denial, and it's mental and spiritual training. That's what a fast is. So you have the things that actually make sense is confession makes sense, forgiveness makes sense, and fasting makes sense. So taking up your cross is joining the battle, the suffering against your own nature. The struggle isn't punishment, it's a reminder of what humans chose in the garden. Without the discomfort, we would have no shame or no memory of it. So because it's part of human nature, it's just part of us. And that's something that we all share. We're all supposed to be ashamed of what happened in the garden. We're all supposed to get back to the source, which is God. So the path is to remember our fall in the garden and resist it, or at least try to. You got to give it an effort. And that's when you get into the sucks less. Remember, you only have 2 options, sucks and sucks less. It sucks less when you get back focused on God and trying to get that relationship back that we lost in the garden. And this series started, it was supposed to be about human behavior, but it turned into an origin story and an understanding of what we're up against, and to remember why it's necessary. It's necessary so we don't forget the moment we chose. So that's it. That's what I learned in making those videos. If you want more videos like this, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.